Okay, Peter. We're here. We are here.
I'm Peter Wise, and this is my show from Forum. It started April 27th. It's a collection of paints and paintings, oil paintings and collages, and one 3D piece. And the show started April 27th, and today's the last day. As you can tell by the crowds in here, it's been extremely successful. So I'd like to just take you around and look at all the works and maybe say something about them. And of course, if you have any questions, the public voice will be John Macleod, who is producing and filming this. And he will ask intelligent questions. And we do have a passerby that happened to stumble in and might want to make a comment about the pictures.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi.
We're going to take a quick look around just to get an idea of the space.
The show is called People and Politics, and the picture should be self-evident as to the theme, although it's not completely clear, I guess, without a little explanation. I don't know why John is shooting. Oh, he must be shooting Helga with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh, we're very unsteady here.
The centerpiece.
Very unsteady cam.
Scale. Hi. Hello, Brian. Hi. Where we were?
We were talking about Helga.
Oh, Helga. Well, we can talk about Helga later.
Okay.
That was the real overtly political piece. Why don't we start and just look at it one by one, and if I can remember the titles, I might be able to remember something about them.
Okay.
So, hello. This is the first painting. It's called Untitled. That's not too hard to forget. It's based on a photograph by a French photographer whose name I still don't remember. It was shot in about 1952. I think what I was trying to do was just texturalize it, because it's a very sensual body, obviously. You get an interplay between the texture of the flesh and the sheet or the blanket there. In a square format. Just a study, nothing great. Let's see, the second one is a collage, or well, actually mixed media. It's called Public Scrutiny. And I don't know if you can pick this up on the camera, but the upper figure is a picture by Robert Mapplethorpe of Patti Smith. And below it's just your generic Playboy bunny, and then it's overlaid with newspaper and transfer and gold and plexiglass. And obviously the idea of public scrutiny was the idea of stardom, and the Patti Starr's sort of a superstar, and of course the generic Playboy bunny is a superstar as a class. And I thought as a genre, right? So I wanted to get the idea of penetration, and this hole in the plexiglass sort of really did that trick pretty well. And it also has sort of a Japanese, I think a Japanese feel to it, like a gong, like the Gong Show, like people beating things. And I don't know, actually it sort of worked out. I wasn't going to put it in the show, but everybody else liked it, so I put it in.
Yes, interesting.
Thanks. Interesting. Yeah, okay. And below it is...
Well, let's see if we can give
want to look at that? You can see all the scratches on the plexiglass because I couldn't afford glass.
An idea of what the space really looks like.
There's a lot of silver and gold paint scratched through on it. There's all sorts of transfers below it. But these things sort of evolve by themselves once you get started. They never end up the way they're supposed to. Fortunately, I guess. Collage is a spontaneous art.
Okay, now we're down here.
Now we're at Letters from Underground, which I mistitled on the list of works, but that's okay. This is part of six collages, all dealing with the references of the letters and the connotations with the different letters of the Phoenician alphabet. At least my personal ones, anyway. And I guess they're sort of self-explanatory if the camera picks up the images. Z being the end of all, of course. The end of the road. The last railroad station. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford to frame the other three, so it's a mini alphabet collage. Here's another oil painting. Collection of John Macleod, your producer and cameraman. I've gone through the spiel about Andy Warhol so many times, I'm tired of saying it. Other than the fact I wanted to express something different about Warhol than was different from the general attitude, in that he was actually a very strong person, and he worked very hard to get to where he was. So I used the Slavic features to exaggerate that, and thought it came out pretty nicely. Unfortunately, the electrician that punctured the canvas evidently didn't like the picture that well, but you can't see it too much.
I don't think you'll even be able to tell,
Yeah,
especially on video.
that's good. Anyway, this was Andy at the height of his commercialism. Not my favorite time, but it was an awfully good picture. So I adapted it from that. Okay, next is a piece with it's oil on foam core, which is a interesting medium to work with because you can layer a lot. You can do all the academic kind of varnishing and layering of paints. That was a time-consuming thing. And the name of it's homage to E.J. Belloc. E.J. Belloc was a photographer in New Orleans at the turn of the century. And they actually made a movie about him starring Brooke Shields, and I always get the title wrong.
Pretty Baby.
Pretty Baby, right? And E.J. Belloc had a trapezoid-shaped head and was 4 feet tall. He was sort of a weird person. But on his off time from the shipyards in New Orleans, being a technical designer, he went over to Storyville and eventually lived there. And Storyville was a red light district in New Orleans. And he did portraits of all the prostitutes in the houses that he lived in. Eventually, according to the movie anyway, marrying one of them. I think.
And how tall was he?
Well, he's probably taller than 4 feet, but I don't think.
They probably ended up dubbing it Short Storyville after
Short Story. Or Toulouse-Lautrecville, something like that.
Yeah, I heard that a lot of those women in the red light district are Toulouse. I'm sorry, bad
Not
puns.
Toulouse for Hilaire, though. Was it Hilaire? No, it's not Hilaire. It's
Saint Hilaire.
EJ. Whatever.
Timothy Saint Hilaire.
And here's another French national hero, Marcel Proust, collage. The idea on him is Proust is really the center of French culture as far as I'm concerned, and everything works out from him from there. So there's a modernist treatment. As one of the initiators of literary modernism, everything is built on him. And there's a field of French abstraction from the 1950s that has these real solid dark forms in them, sort of generic. So I built that around, and he's sort of a foundation of French culture anyway. My favorite author, that's for sure. And if you have a couple of years, you can always read one of his books. If you got a lot of leisure, that is.
No, and I just want to clear up for any viewers that, no, I wasn't drunk while videotaping. It's just that I'm really out of practice.
That's okay. I'm out of practice of saying anything sensible. This is one of my first oils. It's called Summer. It's been titled and retitled about 95 times. It's oil on linen, actually. It's actually taken from a photograph of Virginia Woolf and Angelica Bell, who was her niece, excuse me. She was the daughter of Vanessa Bell, who was Virginia's sister and a great painter as far as I'm concerned. And anybody who's ever been to England in the summer probably will know the feeling of this painting because it's warm and rural and constable-y, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was a real nice photograph, so I did a picture of it. And I think it's as loose as I get in terms of my painting. Okay. Jim Morrison, oil on panel. Did that right after seeing Oliver Stone's movie. Of course, it brought back a lot of memories of those wonderful years. And I think what Stone was trying to do with the film, I was trying to do with the painting, but there was that double feeling for Morrison of the artist and the renegade. Plus, he was a pretty sensitive guy. Believe it or not, I think so. And so he had this continual struggle between one side and the other, and I tried to get that in the painting. Unfortunately, it's framed really badly, which I'll change someday. But it's really not an important picture. It's just my homage to Jim Morrison. And this is Barbara over here, my wife. It ended up looking like a Tennessee Williams play or a William Faulkner novel, but it's one of my few good photographs I think I've ever done. She really isn't an idiot.
You're thinking of Steinbeck.
No, not Steinbeck.
No, I was joking. But when you said she really isn't an idiot, I was...
Well, yeah, there was an idiot in Steinbeck, too. But there's an idiot in Faulkner as well, of course.
Which...
Sound and the Fury, Benji. You know. And, but he never was institutionalized, as far as I know. I mean, that was the feeling of this. That was
oh, really? I don't get that.
You don't get that? What do you get from it?
I get, New England bed and breakfast out of that.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Okay, here's another one of E.J. Bullock. Oops, no, that's not one of E.J. Bullock's prostitutes. This is adapted from an E.J. Bullock picture, and it's called The Enthronement of Socialism. So it's a allegorical picture. I really like Audrey Flack's early work anyway, with her rich and lush colors, and I think a lot of that influenced this. Well, you can take this picture the way you want it. You know the title. You're looking at it.
Don't I have to pay for it before I take it?
I guess. I don't know. Where are we going now?
We keep going back to you because we just want to keep everybody an idea of the scale of...
Oh, yeah. Well, that last one was oil on canvas, by the way. I'm supposed to say that. And this is another collage. This is the second version of another collage. Obviously, it's about Kent State, which I think this image is engraved on everybody's memory, at least mine, permanently. I think what I was trying to say was, I mean, part of the failure of the anti-war movement was also the failure of the anti-war movement to take in hand that it wasn't just the war that the people should have been against, it was also racism.
Right.
And there's a division here between the two, because we could have had real social change to actually had the war continued, because the element of racism would have eventually been wed to the element of the anti-war movement. So there was always this division, this dichotomy in the revolutionary movement. And unfortunately, both sides paid the price, as did America, I think.
When I see that photograph, I think about where I was when Kennedy was shot.
Yeah. Well, this isn't John F. K. In fact, nobody remembers this guy's name, unfortunately. But I do. And below it is, this isn't a political picture, it's just a picture about Virginia Woolf. It's a collage, obviously, and this figure was put onto plexiglass and overlaid over the initial collage to get a 3D effect, I guess. It's just parts and fragments of her life, of her consciousness, and that's what she used to write about. But, I don't know. Next, oil on panel. This is called Love in a Vacuum. I think it carries forward the theme of the Kent State one in the sense that the people that were in the quote, the anti-war revolutionary movement, especially at this time, 1968, were really pariahs from a society, but they're pariahs to themselves too, hence the title. There was a lot of confusion in the movement as well as outside the movement. And I tried to capture that. Also, it was beneficial. We had a show called Equus going on at the same time. So there's a little referential thing there. I think that's like one of my most successful oils. Above here is another collage, but I guess you could call it mixed media. It's worked in with saran wrap, which has been sprayed with gold paint and scratched through with magic markers and things, all sorts of different things. It's called Brown Mao. It's really a takeoff on Warhol's Mao, who was famous that picture was famous in the 60s, obviously. And of course the pun.
Yes. Which should we make?
No, we shouldn't make the.
No,
we shouldn't make the pun. But it's an elegy for Mao. I mean, it's a serious elegy. It's not saying that Mao is a product anymore. It's revisionism. And the next one's sort of a nondescript collage, really influenced by Jim Eng's work. Just a placement of a number, which means absolutely nothing. But people think, what is that number doing there?
So it makes
so they
them
linger
think.
over it. Well, number 9, I mean, obviously the Beatles song, I guess.
So it doesn't mean absolutely nothing.
No, it doesn't mean absolutely nothing.
And it's put there
also
to
a pun on the
evoke a
German.
deliberate emotional response from the viewer.
Well, yeah, but that
So
would be
it really-
pretty contrived, you know?
Well, it is contrived.
But it's not meant to be contrived. It shouldn't be contrived.
It's meant to be ambiguous.
Ambiguous, yeah.
So
Yeah.
in
That's
its
not
function,
contrived.
But its function in the collage is predetermined, so in that sense, it's contrived.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could have selected any other number but 9, that's true. And 9 has a connotation of the Russian 9, which means no. And I think a lot of the,
and of course,
the feeling in this is no, because of nihilism and so on and so forth.
And of course, we could make no, we couldn't. We won't.
We couldn't.
We'll do that off camera. Wait.
We'll do that some other time.
What a funny joke that was that you did miss. But we want to keep this PG-13, so.
Okay.
Actually, that might even get away with PG-13.
Sure, that would get away with PG-13. Okay, next is an oil on a canvas. It's called, it's not called anything at all, because it's just a semantic picture, really. I wanted to take a picture all the way through the photographic process and then paint it, so I could think that I created the entire thing from the start to finish. And this is actually a wall that was in Iowa City in 1990, and it's a little neighborhood which probably had more Sandinistas per square foot or square inch than Nicaragua itself.
Per capita.
And I just thought it was a terrific statement, and I wanted to paint it because it was an eloquent. It was an eloquent phrase about the history of Nicaragua and how it's been repressed by the United States government, which is, our country, of course, is, what, 250 times the size of Nicaragua.
Yeah. So.
1 million times richer. And, of course, John Q. Public probably passes by that every day and doesn't think anything about it. But
John Q. Dodge.
Yeah, John Q. Dodge, Plymouth, whatever. And it had these beautiful flowers overhanging it, which just set off the whole phrase terrifically. Because it was romantic and poetic. And I don't think it's that great a picture, but at least I know it's mine. And this is the tree I didn't create for this exhibition. And
even though it is one of the three.
Are we on? Are we on?
Just checking. Yes, we are.
Okay, this is a diptych collage, and it's pretty complicated. I don't even know if I can explain it myself. It's called Workers' Playtime. And if you look at the imagery, I use Diana Alton's imagery quite a bit. Of course, nobody remembers Diana Alton, but she's one of the people who was killed in the New York tenement explosion in 1970. She was part of Weatherman faction. She's sort of a saint to me. And I think the connotation of Workers' Playtime really is the currency of revolution. I was striving to get a feeling of counterfeit plates and things like that. And the currency of revolution is sloganeering. There's a lot to do with sex and death. Here's a wanted poster of Bernadine Dorn, who was one of the survivors of Weatherman, still alive as far as I know. It was more about women in the movement because the revolution along with, I really couldn't call it a revolution, but the movement itself along with racism had the other important issue of women's rights and women's identities. And it's really about that, how women's identities have been subverted. And Alton and Dorn obviously wanted to reverse that. And there's the generic Chinese propaganda poster, Maoist propaganda poster. The woman, as she sees herself, I think, would like to see herself, at least at that time, of hardworking and not oppressed. So that's, I don't know, there's a lot more going on in that, but that's all I want to talk about now. Obviously, we're on the political side of this show. This is one of my first collages. It's called The Shining Path, obviously after the Shining Path group in Peru. But it's also about the process of painting and creation and how it's an upward curve, not a curve, but right now it's an upward bouncing collage.
There. This is very difficult.
It's also a very small collage. I don't think it's 12 by 12.
No, that's about 5 by 5.
5 by 5.
Put your thumb in there to give them an idea of scale.
Life size. Yeah, it's small. A lot of the imagery, there's a... Are we back?
Yep, we're still
talking about that?
We're still on it.
A lot of the imagery is derived from French painting. There's a restaging of one of Rousseau's paintings in there, whom I really admire, and I thought he was at the peak of his powers when he did this picture. It's also about postmodernism and recombination of images. This is the French royal family at the time of the Revolution of 1848. There's Ho Chi Minh in there. There's a lot of scratching through. There's a lot of Xerox. There's a lot of transfer. There's mylar in it to give the feeling of the shining path, to objectify it. And probably one of my most successful collages, even though it's little. And below this one is Imaginary Playmate. That's sort of self-explanatory. Again, the scratching through, using a generic icon, a Playboy bunny. And
again, forgive the
lining it some
extremely tentative camera work.
well, it's a small collage too. This one of my most recent pictures is called Revisionism. It started out being just a direct copy of a Russian painting from the 1930s, a heroization of Lenin, of course. And once I got started on it, I said, hey, I can have a lot of fun with this. I didn't really want to parodize it, but I wanted to update it. That's why I call it revisionism. This figure was not even in, obviously, was not in the original picture. And it ended up like Rene Magritte meets Edward Hopper, I think, in terms of color. I really like it a lot. It's also on polyester, which was sort of weird to work with because you have to keep painting and painting. And so I wanted to make the feeling that communism is still a vibrant idea, but one does have to revise things. And also it's about the personality of Lenin. And Lenin was not the Puritan saint that everybody, that the cult of personality would have people believe. But he was a human being.
A man.
A man, right. And this is a woman.
To use a colloquialized phrase, his shit stinks.
Yeah, he puts his pants on the same way. But, well, never mind. I think the woman's about the degradation of communism. Anyway, okay, last collage. Women in Boxes, again about oppression of women. It's a collection of women that look like they're trapped. A lot of these are photographs. Again, Balak's picture. Also the pun on box, of course. And I think this is a Bill Brandt picture. I'm not sure. But I thought it was a terrific picture. Oh, sorry. I thought it was a terrific picture. And I want to get the feelings of...
Christian Vogt.
I suppose.
V-O-G-T-H-T. Something, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I'm not good with names at all, especially when I rip off people, because I don't want to remember them. Because I want to revise them. Again, there's a lot of saran wrap on here. The feeling of enclosure is so multiple boxes, multiple rectangles, multiple bars, boxes on heads, towels on heads.
Boxes on boxes.
Boxes all around. Chinese boxes. The Boxer Rebellion, maybe someday.
Well, that's only if you prefer not to wear jockeys. I don't like to wear jockeys. They're awfully short and they cause trouble.
Where are we going? Oh.
Like Willie Shoemaker. Yes, let's go look at Virginia Ham. Virginia Ham. I'm sorry, we made the pun before we saw the picture.
Yeah, okay. Virginia Woolf again. A repetitive icon in my work. I think this was shot by Cameron, the original picture that was taken for. It's a very famous picture of Woolf when she was very beautiful. And at least in the sort of Western traditional way. She always was beautiful. But this is your typical Victorian, prissy kind of photograph. And what I did I wanted to revise it, so I put a William Morris background behind it to show, again, you know, she's symbolic of modernism. And as was Morris. And so I wed Morris in the Wolf picture. I don't know if it was successful. It's awfully big, I do know that.
I think it's very successful.
It's like really big. And I've done that picture a number of times as well. I would rather take...
Personally, I think it's a very successful picture.
I would rather take one image and rework it multiple times and keep looking for new subjects, because I think images are mines and you can like really mine them for a lot of things. So, now,
Joyce.
Oh no, we forgot Helga.
Oh, we didn't. That's right. We didn't really talk about it.
This is called Oil-Eating Bacterium, and it was based on the wonderful American victory in Iraq. It's self-explanatory. Look, the yellow ribbon. I've gone through this so many times I don't want to talk about it too much, except I think I painted the Nazi helmet gold, obviously because American helmets look like Nazi helmets now. And that's no accident. And the gold is obviously...
Well, when you say that's no accident, what do you mean?
What do I mean? I mean it's a conspiracy to make American soldiers feel like they're the Wehrmacht stomping over
Really?
Eastern Europe.
I wasn't aware of that, but
it appeals to
makes
their
sense.
fascist tendencies. And of course they would say it's for better ear protection, but I'm sure that's true, but I don't think that's the idea. And it's painted gold, obviously, because economic reasons are what the war thrived on, and that's what all that it was about. 100,000 people died because of our desire for oil. And it's wrapped in bandage, obviously, for the feeling of death and mummification. And there's a necklace of, I don't know if the camera picks this up, there's a necklace of spent M16 bullets and dice and dog tags and various other paraphernalia of the military. Some of these are antique pieces. This is from Massachusetts from the Civil War. And so on and so forth. And there's some Hindu mythology in there too. And we called her Helga last time we filmed her, so I guess we'll keep calling her Helga.
Bravo, Helga.
Or Alpha Helga. Okay, well that's the show.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, brave. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking.
John's so sensitive.
No, brava.
How about no brava?
I don't know what I'm talking about. Brava is the feminine.
Brava.
Brava, bravo, and brave is plural, I guess.
Okay.
And I'm probably anglicized, probably saying it very poorly anyway.
And there's no bra at all to speak of. So.
And actually no visible means of support.
Other than these bandages.
Well,
It's supposed to be about oppression of women too, I really think so. I'm not sure, but I think so. Who knows what ideas lurk in the subconscious of crazy people. So that's the show. And Joyce, of course, would like to make some comments about it.
It was a very nice show. I enjoyed hanging it. I enjoyed viewing it. And I really like Peter's work.
Is there
You
one
probably
piece that
enjoy
struck you?
taking it down. Well, when she was hanging the large one in the corner, it struck her on the side.
No, my favorite, of course, is Andy Warhol.
Why, of course.
I think that it's most people's favorite.
You like it because everybody else likes it?
No, I like his face.
Do you think about Andy Warhol differently now that you saw the painting than you did before?
I didn't know Andy Warhol before.
Did you know anything about it?
No.
Think about his shirts differently. That was a facetious comment. Don't believe everything you hear, ladies and gentlemen. After all, I am a brilliant millionaire. Proof positive.
John would like to now deliver his monologue. Maybe John has a favorite picture and he'd like to talk about it, other than Andy.
Well, actually, this one in the collection of John Macleod is quite a nice painting, and I do believe that this is also a terrific painting, and I think that this is a splendid painting.
Notes on
And-
technique, John? Anything about technique?
Well,
I mean, do you think we're striving for figurism in the postmodern age and it's ridiculous because...
I think that it's more like a Mannerist style,
Exaggerated?
in subtle ways.
Yeah, not like with the long limbs and...
No, not like
Yeah.
El Greco or anything like that.
Tintoretto,
But I do think it has a certain distinct in the way that you handle your pigment blending.
I get to be camera
And
now.
actually, see, I get to zoom in on me.
Oh, yeah,
But,
zoom in. Yeah, in other words, you take the features like in writing, you would exaggerate for effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Like I did
in
with
the
Andy.
painting, you have the same, but you can see how it does even vary from painting to painting.
Well, it does, because people vary from people to people.
That's true.
So,
I think the collages retain a little bit more of a, well, because you're dealing more with graphics and those sorts of images, they're a little harder edged. I think all of your painting is the aforementioned Mannerist style is a reflection of your romanticization of the pigment surface, not necessarily the subject matter of the painting.
It's the process, yeah.
But it's obvious you enjoy working with the paint and pushing it around.
But I don't use a lot of paint. I don't know why I don't use a lot of paint. Because I think I like to leave the canvas. Well, paint's expensive, but I also like to remember that it's on canvas or linen, and maybe you can pick up the texture. But we should never forget that it's a suspension of disbelief. It's not an attempt to get reality. And there's something sensual about the paint on top of the surface, too. Especially if you can afford lots of titanium white. Not to mention blips. But then again, I mean, talking about that, you have the demonstration picture down here, which is hardly... it's the no brushstroke school of academic art, essentially. It's my homage to Nicolas Poussin, taking a historical event and expanding it by simplifying it, really. Expanding its importance by trying to simplify the forms. And making it romantic by the color of it. I sort of like that painting, even if I have to say so myself.
It's all right to say so yourself. I think all artists have their own favorite work.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not necessarily the consensus on their work. For instance, think of Tchaikovsky. He hated the Nutcracker.
Oh, so do I.
And well, of course, but it's also probably his most popular work.
Yeah, yeah.
Although
there's no accounting for public taste.
Right.
That's true. And I like the Lenin picture because it was an experimentation, really. It's hard painting on polyester. It's hard parodizing something and still keeping it a serious subject because I really like the painting. I'm sorry.
I like the painting too. With the added female, it almost I'm almost afraid to say it because I don't want it to sound like a really stupid comment, but it
you've listened to all my stupid comments.
It alludes to me. It alludes a little bit to this Freudian relationship, not just in the sense of the female juxtaposed to the male, but also Lenin had that same the personality of the man was just as vigorous and Freud in his own way was as big a man as Lenin.
Oh, sure.
And they are even physical similarities.
Oh, absolutely.
And this when I look at this, that's
it looks like analysis.
Sitting in the back. Yeah, the analysis. So it's all in the back of my mind as I look at it.
Sure.
But on more than one plane, which is the part that's hard to explain without sounding really.
Plus, you have the rational against the irrational. If we look at typical gender stereotypes. So there's a dualism in the picture, which you've picked up, I think. And there's also a juxtaposition of some pretty strong colors in there, which picks up on that. Plus the idea of Hopper versus Magritte. Yeah, it's just full of dualities, really.
I think the surface of the painting is more Hopper than Magritte because your colors are a little more luminous. The way you mix them, not as flat. But again, the space is very Magritte.
And I think
the light, I don't think is exaggerated as Hopper usually is.
And the stylization of the drapery, I think, is Magritte. Plus, the illumination, if I can turn the picture around.
In a moment.
This is really hard to paint on. I mean, I kept painting and painting. But the reason you get the radiance is because it's on brilliant white. Well, it's not brilliant white anyway, but that was that was almost shining raiment painting on it, which was sort of did my homework for me because a lot of that still comes through the paint, even though there's about 6 or 7 layers of paint on it. but yeah, I like this one.
You should fix that after all. We are about to take it.
Nah, we're gonna take the whole thing down.
No,
You want
it's
almost
being
taking this down, Joe? 'Cause
Sure, sure.
It's over. Joyce is good with scissors. I guess we gotta get to work now. John can have fun.
Better with scissors than I am talking.
That's okay. Really successful visual arts shouldn't be interpreted linguistically anyway. Should it?